Welcome back to Switched to Linux. Well, I want to talk about some software today because one of the things that we should always be doing is moving along in our thought processes and our education and things like that. And for me, I've been studying the original languages of the Bible just to grab a better and richer and deeper understanding. Of course, anytime you're learning a new language, then the vocab is one of the things that gets you the best. And of course, there's other things as well. Now, the thing I want to look at here is it's not just for that. It is for literally studying anything. Maybe you think the CCP is going to take us all over and you want to study Mandarin to get on top of it. Maybe you're living close to the border at the bottom and you want to brush up on your Spanish. Whatever the case happens to be, we have the software today to help you in any of those, including if you want to learn more about Linux and the Linux commands, that is in there as well. We're going to talk about the Anki software today. So I was looking around, so just to talk a little bit about the evolution of where I started looking at this software. I've been wanting to study, and I have been studying a lot of the original languages, as I said, but the problem that we get is, especially with a different alphabet and a lot of different words, it's really hard to stay brushed up regularly. And I did start by doing some good old-fashioned flashcards as well. But you just cannot keep up with it. So I started studying a guy who studied he wasn't like a teacher of it as terms of his videos, but he did a lot of videos about the teaching philosophy of learning the ancient languages. And one of the things he had mentioned is going through and reviewing vocabulary words, adding about 25 words a week for 4 weeks in a row. Take the 5th week off to just review everything. Don't add any new words. So by the end of that, you're going to have over 1,000 new words into your vocabulary. That is excellent if you're trying to learn any language. Maybe you have kids that are in school right now learning language. We have on Linux and also on a phone, and I actually use it on this Galaxy. Somebody sent me this Galaxy here, and it doesn't work with American cards, but it's a amazing camera, and I use it for my Bible study aids and things like that as well. However, I did find out this software is also on F-Droid, so I can put it on my primary phone as well. So we'll go ahead and talk about that. Now, Anki itself is really, really good software. And it's not perfect. Some people have had some valid criticisms. The biggest criticism from the front end here is their website itself. While their software is up to date, pushing the latest update just a couple weeks ago, their website does seem to lack a lot of extra information. For example, just in doing my research for this video today, I just found out it's on F-Droid, and I use F-Droid. I did searches for it. I didn't find it until I linked to their GitHub page, found the alpha builds, and that backtracked me over to the page where there was a link to F-Droid. I'm like, what? It's on F-Droid? It is on F-Droid. For those of us using a hardened Linux phone that you're using F-Droid with no G apps, you got it. It's there on F-Droid. Of course, not knowing it's on F-Droid, I used the Aurora store, and then that wasn't allowing you to do a search, so I had to do a workaround. I got it installed on my phone. I've been using it for a few weeks, and I love the software. So the other factor is the installation for Linux was a little bit wonky out there. So here is, you can download it. Of course, if you are still using Windows or Mac, they do have download it for Windows 10, Windows 11, brand new versions. The latest versions just dropped May 9th of this year, so it's brand new. They have a brand new version for your Mac, for your Intel, your Apple Silicon. All of those are covered. All these are good. Your Android, it's available in the Play Store. I wish that they had here the links for F-Droid. They don't. This just goes right to the Play Store. The only unfortunate thing is you guys using iOS are going to pay an Apple tax, which is kind of insane. It is a $24.99 Apple tax to use it on your iOS devices, although it's free everywhere else. So very odd to me, but you can actually get it on over there. And I'll show you the F-Droid on the virtual machine where I'm actually using a little bit more of it. Of course, on the Linux, you can download this, and if you, you can't see what's down there at the bottom, but basically what this is doing is it's giving you a remote repository. So here's actually their latest links. You can see here, May 9th was the last release. Here's your Windows. They have a QT and QT5 and QT6 Windows. They have the same with the Mac. And then here is your Linux QT5, QT6. So those just dropped. So you just choose which one of those you want to do. And that's what they're telling you to do. And then we're installing all that. You're like, oh. So I'm like, I'm going to have to do a whole thing about how to install it. Nope, it's on FlatHub. So if you're using Flatpak, it is now here. I wish they made references to this here. So the software is amazing. You can get it in a lot of great free and open source places like FlatHub. You can get it on F-Droid. They just don't tell you that on the site, which is insane. So guys, please update your site because you have everything so amazing that I really wish that you would you do that. But anyway, I'm going to do the rest of the video over from the virtual machine where I installed this, and I will install it over on my other softwares possibly, but I am actually going to do this in the virtual machine because in an upcoming video, I want to talk about a variety of different flashcard software and advantages and disadvantages of each. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the virtual machine. And here's, of course, back to their page, the index of downloads. Here's the installation manual. Here's your one big consideration is it does require, unless there was another one I was looking at, I got to figure out where that was. Requirements. So it works with glibc. Okay. So there are a few Linux distributions that use and I don't know all the exact terminology, how to pronounce it, and MUSL instead as an alternative. Just a different way of doing things. Alpine Linux, Dragora, Gentoo, OpenWRT, Sabotage, Morpheus, and Void Linux. Those systems will use, I'll just call it Muscle here. I don't know if it's supposed to be Muscle, instead of glibc. So you may not be able to get the software running on any of those, unless it's working with the Flatpaks. Who knows? But as I went ahead and did the install over here on a fresh and fully updated Linux Mint Ubuntu edition, this is the 21.1, and I was like, well, let's just go ahead and search, see if it's here, and here's Anki. Looks like we actually have it in the repository too. Okay, that didn't even know it was in the repository. I probably would have installed that instead of the Flatpak if I knew. I think I actually searched for flashcards and this one showed up. But I went ahead and installed it from the Flatpak. It was in the repository. I didn't know it was in the repository because this actually tells you on the installation for newer Ubuntu versions. Where was it at? For recent Ubuntu versions, install these before. So I assumed it wasn't in the repositories and I didn't see it in a Debian repository. Okay, so more good news. It is still around. Now, let's go ahead and look at the software itself. So over here, I have my software set up, and what I've done is there is a listing of all of the Greek words, everything that is, I believe this is all of the words that are going to be in the Bible itself. And then what I've done with those is I have, because I'm not going to go through, there's 5,000 of them. I'm not going to go through and try and study those out of complete context. What I'm doing is I'm picking 25-ish or so words, and I'm putting those into its own specific deck. And then what I can do now is go through those. So first, let's talk about how to add your files. So on the Android device, there is an import which is going to directly sync to the libraries to import the ones that you want. And it does give you a warning or go online to do this. On the desktop version here, there's simply an import button. Of course, it's obviously down there, Get Shared. So the Get Shared is going to open up a deck where we can go in, and there's popular categories. There's arts and sciences and trivia. You can share your own decks if you want. So in my case, since I was doing Greek, I went ahead and did a search for Greek, and these are all of the different Greek libraries that people have put out. Some of these, if you happen to have a Greek text, you might actually find the library that is directly connected to that text. Here's the Septuagint vocabulary. So, of course, the Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Old Testament. Here's up here, there's your Greek alphabet if you want to do that. And there's lots of stuff in here that you can grab. So what I did is I just went with this one, all Bible Greek vocab, and then this contains all the Koine Greek words in the New Testament sorted into 4 subdecks, which is the ones used 6 or more, one used more than once, and then a few different languages and whatnot in here. And this is about what they look like. Here's your word, here's your definition, frequency, and then it will give you different tags. So you download these guys into files, and then as these guys are downloaded, you can see that it's these ones here. This one here is for another flashcard system I was playing around with. But these guys over here are what those are. And then you just go on to your screen, file, import, and then you just find the one you want to import, and then you go ahead and import it in. Of course, if you're not really interested in any of that, then let's just go back and do other things. So you can search for Linux. Of course, I just did there, but here's searching for Linux. Here is for the LPIC1 exam, 1 and 2. There is 1,400 different study cards in there. Here's Linux Bash cheat sheet. So this will give you various Bash commands. So what will those do? So if you want to study up on your terminal, you can go ahead and use this. And because we're not always in the terminal every single day, well, you can set up a flashcard system so you can be studying it. So when you need it, you can do that. There we go. Firefox command shortcuts. Isn't that great? Linux Essentials, there's GNU Linux flashcards. Here's LPC 101, 102, and Linux Essentials. Here's a Linux dictionary. We have socket programming. Here's basic Linux commands. Linux commands for the average desktop user. So front, back, CD is change directory, kill all, kills the active, tail returns a specified number of lines from the bottom of a file. So you have a lot of extra tools you can have inside of here. And then you can use these in order to run your system. So let's go ahead and walk through how this guy works. And we'll start with the Greek one first. Now, here brings us to the first downside is if I wanted to study things more than once a day. And what I've been doing on my phone is I've been studying them about twice a day. And so if you want to do, like, for example, here's your most common words. You can see the settings will say how many words are you going to go through, how many words you're currently learning, and how many words you need to review based on what you see. So here you get your phrase up here, and this is the basic Greek for the. And so hit enter, here's the, and then at the bottom, I'm going to say easy means I really know that off the top of my head. If you hit easy, you're not going to see this card for a while. It's going to bury it. If you're like, okay, I'm stumped on that one, it's going to give it to you again very quickly. So you can go ahead and do that. This is, of course, and. So and even also, okay, that's easy too. This is autos. This is like him, he, herself, they, him, them. I call this the transgender verb. Okay. So you can see you can go through and do all these, and then as you go back to the deck, it's going to tell you how many words you have. And then the setting gear over here, this will give you your options. So you can say how many new cards do you want to see a day? What's the max numbers of review per day? And then here's your learning steps, 1 minute to 10 minutes. Here's your intervals. And then here's your lapses. Now, this does bring us to the big downside is if I want to go through these again, it's kind of hard to do. So I threw 3 words into this deck. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And I ran through those 3 words, and now it's like, hey, you finished the deck for the day. So what I do on my phone to make sure I can do this a couple days is you can set up a custom study. I don't know, I'm just going to make stuff up here because I have done this on my phone, and I don't know exactly how to do it over here. All right, there we are. So I hit the custom study session. I said, hey, just 10 days in advance. We're just going to do study 10 days in advance. So now I hit my words up here. Peripito, I believe this one was encounter. So sure. And this was trial. And this one was human or man or human. So you can see that it's there. Okay, you've finished your deck. Now that you have your custom decks so built up, and this is what I do here is I have a custom study session. If you go to your custom study session, you can always just hit rebuild and it will rebuild the whole thing. So, and it's going to do it based on the number, the number of cards in the deck it's based on. And since this is based on my current study, so now what I do is on my phone is any words that show up on that day, I'll brush through them on that, and then I go through and rebuild the custom study. So let's go ahead and talk about how we can view your cards. So this is your card browser, and it is quite extensive. You can see you can do all sorts of flags. You can do all sorts of other things. You can do your various tags and stuff like that. And then you can sort out which library you're on. So right now we're on this one here. If I look at my current study deck, if I look at my custom session deck. Okay, so if I wanted to add a new word in this, so let's just go ahead, not over there, we got to search. So over here, the search bar up here is going to allow you to search. So if I want to add something like God to my list. So over here, and then this is all of the different New Testament words which are going to be used. Of course, the most common is the theos. So I'm going to right-click this guy, hit Change Deck, and then move it down into Current Study. That's going to move it out of this deck and into my Current Study deck, so that will now have that new card added to it. And if I go in and rebuild the custom study deck, it should add it to, let me go ahead into our current study and double check. On the phone, it definitely does. Looks like it may not on this one. Let me empty, rebuild. Okay, yeah, so the current study has one new card in it, so study that one. Okay, yep, that was easy. We got it. All right, so here's your custom study. Let's go back into our decks, go into our custom study, rebuild, and then you'll see that now there's 4 cards to rebuild. So it will have added that word on into my deck. And it will push them out randomly. I realize I only have 3 words in here, but it does give them to you in a random order, which is kind of nice and easy. Let's go back to our browser, see what else we can do inside of here. So here is, again, all of the words that we have, and then we can actually do your various tags. So here's your various tags of how frequently words are used. So these are the words used most commonly. These are your words that are a little bit less common. These are the ones that are pretty rare. So you can see that you can do a lot of study within this. Now, of course, you guys maybe you guys may not be as interested in that. So let's go ahead and talk about one more cool function of this. So let's close the browse section. We have different profiles. So this is great. So if you have a couple different kids and they're in 2 different classes, or they're at 2 different reading studies or whatever else, you have different profiles set up. So here you can see that my cat is learning the Linux commands. So pulling in on CJ has a Linux dictionary card set. So if I hit the browse on his individual user profile, here's all of the different things I have. Like here's your BIOS. And here's your various different things. Here's chmod, program for changing the mode bits. Here's Cinnamon, principal desktop environment for Linux Mint. Here's close, the system call for closing the file descriptor, no longer refers to any file and may be reused. So you can see you have a lot of different things in here. So you can now create the custom decks as we have done previously with Linux. And you can just go in here, study now, and go ahead and see what each of these guys are. So here's your PID. All right. So here's your command for printing the file names to the terminal connected standard input. All right. So you can go ahead and run these, and you can use this for studying any different languages. Of course, you have the different user profiles. So different people could be using the same computer and searching up different notes. Now, there's one more function here, and that is the sync. The sync function requires you to have an Anki account. And as you might guess, I don't have one because I'm a privacy guy. I'm not all that concerned. What I would be more inclined to do is I can export my whole collection here. It includes the media. It includes everything I need. Export this. I'm just going to save this file inside of my my NAS backup, and then if I want to do an import, I can go ahead and re-import that backup back into it. So that is how you're going to use this. Again, I use this. I'm not using this on the Linux computer, but I am using it on the regular on my phone, and the software works much the same way. Overall, I really like the way the software works. It's been a great help to me in learning information, whether you're trying to brush up on your Linux commands or you're trying to learn a new language, or maybe even there is actually some mods to learn the different grammar elements as well. So all sorts of things you can do, and you can just head right on over. If you're curious, you can head right on over to that site there. And on that site, you can just go ahead and do the searches for anything you're looking for. I mean, everything from, let's just go back to that real quick. Here's your chemistry. So here's your biochemistry carbohydrates. Here is your chemistry triple higher. Let's do biology. So here's your amino acid flashcards, botany, A-level biology. So you have all those. And what else do we have in the way of math? Here's math supplementals, Greek letters for deep learning, and languages. So if you want to study Chinese, you can do that. So I'll probably do this when I want to do biblical Hebrew eventually down the road. You can do that. If I want to do Spanish. So everything you might need for studying any language, anything that's going to require you to go through, review materials. You can even create your own custom ones for your job. If you're having difficulty remembering things at your job, you can go ahead and use the software for that. So overall, this software is quite amazing. The biggest downsides, the first downside people have as far as the usability is the fact that it's more difficult to set it up to go back in and redo the cards if you want to do them all again. But I'm guessing that this is something that as I'm using it over the long run, I'm going to go back and be rebuilding my custom decks less and less as it's actually caught up. And, you know, legitimately, do I need to see the word Theos again today? I've already seen it 700 times this last week. So do I really need that? Or is it okay if I don't see that card for 3 or 4 more weeks because I've probably seen it everywhere else? So you have that going for it. Of course, on the downside, the marketing information on their website is pretty bad. It makes no references to the flat pack, which is now available. It makes no reference to the F-Droid for those of us using free and open source software. Overall, though, I love the software. Have a look at it. Check if it's in your repository. Check if it's available on the for the phone you have. And sorry if you're using iOS, you're going to have to pay the Apple tax. But honestly, the software might be worth it. If you're buying an Apple device anyway, why not? Or you can just switch to like a good Google free Lineage phone and have everything working over there. So with that, guys, thank you for watching. Leave your thoughts about this software in the comments down below. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.